Hi everyone, this is my run on the Ice Reaper Lufenia stage, which is Kurasame's event. And before going into the fight, as always, I'll be covering an overview of the boss and its mechanics, as well as the party setup that I use. I will also be including a timestamp in the video description, so if you're interested in specific sections of the fight, you can jump ahead to the fight itself. So coming to this fight, it's just a single wave comprising of a pair of devil hornets, and there are a few things that you need to consider for this fight and prepare your party accordingly for. So first of which, the pair of devil hornets are relatively fast and can be quite annoying because a range of their attacks inflict debuffs such as poison, defense down and speed down, and getting inflicted especially by speed down makes it even more difficult to deal with the fast speed that they have and their high turn rates. So ideally you want to have turn manipulation in your kit or characters who can slow down the bosses in the fight. Secondly, they have an AoE brave and HP attack called Beating Wave, and they will always start the fight with both of them using this attack. So it is more or less just an AoE group brave into HP attack, but the issue is at the start of the fight both of them will use this back to back, and so without any party member who can mitigate this HP damage, it can kill off party members if you take the beating waves together from both the devil hornets. Thirdly, there is of course the orb mechanic, and the orb mechanic, the orb countdown attack is quite devastating because it removes your entire party's buffs, including our frame buffs, and it also cleanses all debuffs on the bosses. And on top of that, of course, you have to eat an AoE group brave and HP attack. And because your buffs have been dispelled, it's very challenging to mitigate this attack. If you do survive this attack, it also grants the Devil Hornet an attack up and HP regen to themselves, which makes the fight longer than it needs to be. So the goal is to really prevent the orb effect from counting down to 0. Now the orb is a bit different from previous Lufenia stages because this time you don't have any abilities to increase the count, rather you have the opportunity to actually stop the countdown from ticking down until the boss's next turn. The orb always starts at a count of 15, giving you a bit more room, and it will only appear and disappear based on HP trigger amounts. So at the start of the fight there is no orb. When any B reaches below 80%, so when it reaches 79% health, the orb will appear, and then the orb will last until the B reaches 49% health. Thereafter, the orb will appear again when the B first reaches 29% health or below, and will last until the B is dead. So the key to getting around the orb, of course, is to incorporate some form of ice attacks in your party, because only ice attacks can pause the orb count. And since this is Kurasame's event, he is somewhat the best character for this job. All his attacks deal ice damage, and of course him being synergy means that he also gets a boost to his stats. Plus his frame debuff also has a very nice 20% speed down built into it, which helps to mitigate some of the fast speed that the bosses have. Now lastly, the other thing to note is that they have an aura called Weight, and when they cast this aura on themselves, you can see it because they get a yellowish glow around them, and they get a range of buffs. So it reduces the brave damage taken, it reduces the HP damage taken, and increases the HP damage dealt. And they cannot be inflicted with break, nor can they be delayed. If you do ice damage to them when they are in the yellow aura, it will prevent or it will remove the HP damage reduction taken, and they will go back to taking normal HP damage. Other than that, this yellow aura will last until they use their next turn, and their next turn will automatically be an HP attack called Rush, which is just restoring their brave before doing an HP attack. So this move doesn't do too much damage as long as you can somehow break them before they do their rush attack, and to do that it's better to use some form of ice attack when they are in the yellow aura. Otherwise you need to think about damage mitigation for the rush attack. Also, thinking about the orb and thinking about the HP trigger points, you need to think about when to use your summon and burst abilities, as well as friend support units that can help you get around the orb countdown here. For example, the orb is paused when they take ice damage and will only continue to tick when the boss's turn has come up. So this means that once you pause the orb with an ice attack, if you use, for example, Amidatelion to delete the boss's turns, the orb will actually stay paused for a very long time, because the boss won't get their turn for a very long time, and won't be able to restart the orb countdown. So because of that, I think Amidatelion is a very good friend support unit, particularly for this fight. The other thing also, of course, is looking at the triggers. You need to really burst them down from the 80% to 50% mark, because you need to quickly reduce the HP before the orb counts down to 0, and also you need to quickly burst them down from the 30% to 0. So if you aren't able to pause the orb for significant amounts of time, the best time to use your burst, if you have one, is from the 80 to 50%. If you feel comfortable taking down the boss from 80 to 50% before the orb countdown can expire, then it's better to save your burst and summon. And if you save either your burst or your summon, the next best time to use them is when they hit the 29% mark and the orb comes back again. Because from the 29% mark all the way down to 0%, the orb will never go away. It will slowly tick down from the count of 15. So you either need to pause the orb through the summon, burst, or through ice attacks. And if you manage to pause the orbs through ice attacks, that is also a fantastic time to bring in delay friend units, again such as Amidatelion, and delete the boss's turns, so that you get a lot of extra wiggle room before the orb starts counting down again. So taking all these special mechanics into consideration, first of all, I used Warrior of Light as my first unit here. Not only because his synergy, but again because the boss always starts the fight with both of them using Beating Wave, and therefore just using Warrior of Light's LD will help me to mitigate Beating Wave. His shield and lock-on ability also helps to protect the rest of the party against the rush attack that the boss will use after gaining the yellow weight aura. Secondly, of course, there's Kurasame. And as I mentioned, Kurasame is quite useful here, not only because of synergy, but also because he slows down the bosses through his frame debuff, and of course he has ice attacks to help deal with the orb and the weight yellow aura mechanic. Rounding off the party, the third party member, there's actually many choices that you can use. One popular choice is to use HP attack disable units such as Kefka or Arciela, because inflicting the bosses with HP attack disable really helps to prevent the rush attack, because that is an HP attack, and of course at the start of the fight you can also prevent the beating wave attack from happening if you need the additional turns. I used Relm because Relm paired with Shiva summon is another form of ice attacks, which is quite useful here, because Kurasame's drawback is that he is pretty slow, and in case I need some to quickly use an ice attack before his turn comes up, at least I have Relm and with a sketch summon for that. Other ice attackers will also do well here, and another good example is Cater. Cater, of course, is also a useful dodge tank. So if you need someone to quickly tank the boss for that one turn, Cater is an excellent choice on top of having ice built into her kit. Plus, she also, of course, has her own ice in peril as well, which is quite handy. My summon of choice here, because I'm using Realm, is Shiva, and Shiva has the added benefit of increasing the party's brave as well if their brave is below their initial brave amounts. So that's it for the party setup. With that said, let's head into the fight. I'll see you there. Okay, so starting off in the fight, as soon as you can, if you are using Warrior of Light, you should immediately use his LD. In case you don't have Warrior of Light, Basch is also another excellent choice as a tank, and he can mitigate very nicely the beating wave attack at the start. With Warrior of Light, it's also very useful for you to use his Throw Buckler to gain the Elude buff on himself, and that will help him to hopefully dodge a lot of the debuffs that the bosses can inflict. So at the start of the fight here, after surviving the beating wave attack, it's fairly straightforward, and the goal is just to damage them evenly until they hit 80% at the same time. This is so that the orb countdown will start together. Another alternative way you can probably approach this if you don't have reliable ice attackers is to damage one hornet at a time. Although there is an enriched mechanic in this fight, if you keep one hornet above 80%, it means that the orb will never appear for that hornet. And likewise, once below 50%, if you keep one hornet above 29% health, 30% health and above, again the orb will never appear, and then you can just focus to burst down one hornet before you deal with the other. So that's also another strategy, although it's less efficient turn-wise because then you need to focus on single target attacks. Okay, so I've reached the 79% mark and the orbs have appeared. And there is a lot of wiggle room here because I have two characters with ice attacks built into their kit. And so that the goal here from 79% to 50% is to just use ice attacks to pause the orb. It is okay to allow sometimes some turns to pass without the orb being paused. And the best approach is to at least pause the orb before the bosses get their turn, because if the boss takes a turn when the orb is not paused, it will decrease the count by 2. Whereas a character taking a turn when the orb is not paused will just decrease the count by 1, which is actually quite manageable, seeing that the orb count is quite high at 15. So during Kurasame's turn, if the boss has just used a yellow aura, it's also a good time to use his AA here. His AA is considered an ice attack, and it will help remove the HP damage reduction, and then after that he can then take his turn as normal. Especially say for in this example, I tend to use his EX. So using his AA first will at least ensure that his EX does respectable damage to the B with the yellow aura still. Okay, so I've gone to below the 50% mark with this Star Prism attack. And this is some sort of the breathing room in the fight, because from the 49% down to the 30% mark, there will not be any orb to deal with. So here you can just go back to sustain damage to both the beasts and to try to bring them down to 30% at the same time. Okay, I decided to pop summon here. One good idea to before you pop your summon is to have Kurasame use his LD skill to increase the stacking debuff to 5 stacks. However, here I saw that one B is already at 5 stacks and the other is at 4 stacks, so I don't think it makes too much of a difference in this case. And the idea below 30% health is to summon Shiva. And then I swapped out Warrior of Light, but you can also use Realm, swap out Realm for Amidatelion, any will do. And then just use Amidatelyon's LD to delete turns, while either Realm or Kurasame use an Ice attack to pause the orb. Once you do this, the rest of the fight is very straightforward because the boss's turns are pushed so far back that you get quite a lot of turns to deal the damage and burst them down. And while you are bursting them down, the orb will not tick down because you have stopped the orb with an ice attack. So somewhat the last 30% of the fight is really just hitting a straw dummy that can't do anything. And as long as you have some respectable damage done to them consistently, you should be able to burst them down before they get their next turn. On that regards, that's why I also use Realm, Relm also has very nice attack auras for the entire party. I believe it's around 80%, assuming you have 3 of C50 artifacts. And she ensures that at least the rest of the party will still deal nice damage even at this late stage of the fight. So this is also the phase to not be conservative on skill users. Because you've passed the honeymoon phase, so the best time to save on skill users if you really need to is from the 100 to 80% mark, and from the 50 to 30% mark because the orb isn't present there. Now during the last 30%, although you've deleted turns with Amidatelion, it's best to quickly burst them down because once the bosses get a turn, the orb will start ticking down again. So in a circumstance where maybe you're running low on ice attacks, you will ideally want to kill off the bosses before they get their next turn. So just use up any and all ability users to quickly speed up the finishing off of the bosses here. And that's it. Very straightforward fight. As always, if you enjoyed the video, do leave a like, leave a comment or subscribe. Really helps a lot. Until then, I'll see you in the next Lufenia fight. Bye bye.